float away secretly from my age-appropriate wife and towards a spectacular toupee. But there's nothing particularly special about halfway. Don't we always feel like we're drawn in pencil while the eraser is working equally hard? Even worse, don't we get used to the feeling our life is a rock, not so slowly chipped away each day, that we live as debtors, withdrawing hourly from a sum owned by some other self, to whom we owe an amount constantly on the edge of coming due? Oh, boo-hoo! You can shrug and say we're fucked, or try something new. Risk buckling under the weight of anchoring yourself inside a time and place, becoming a fully entrenched person in the bewildering motley medley of musics where the abstract and the concrete collide. At such a point, to love is a monstrous leap of the mind, a protest, a mouth speaking the solid substance of a body in a language too inherent for us to translate. But we choose, fully aware of the contradictions, to seek a type of language that will move us beyond the alienation, beyond wit's end, beyond white sound, beyond rights, grounds. We chase blindly a restoration between mind and matter, our words and reality. This is our stubborn belief in love's mandate. This is the difference, the remainder, the extraneous sum we carried home as children alongside the change from the corner store tucked like burning stones inside our shoe, a heightened awareness that the unsatisfying condition of the present can, after all, be changed. But sometimes you just have to shut up and get on the roller coaster. Dear reader, I'm exhausted already, and even the angels don't want to wear these red shoes, in which I can't dance around the subject any longer. I am terrified. In other words, the baby is home now. In other words, in order to understand, in order to truly stand inside love, I want to know what it is and grasp how it sits like action in the heart of inaction, far past description, prescription, or performance. How by day we praise it as generous, while at night we lament our greed. How intoxicated it makes us sing beer songs to the little birds, to the red birds, to the yellow birds, hell, let's sing to all the birds, secret heroes of evolutionary success. How sometimes it refuses our songs, and like lead in alchemy, love confuses our desire to reimagine it. What is it? I'm so scared by the question, one which has bested both Dante and Foreigner, Plato and Hadaway. Baby, don't hurt me if I say here plainly at the start, I doubt I'll find a single answer. In other words, my only guess is that the answer cannot be singular. Still, over and over we turn and return to the pages of the book as though these bound leavings were a sight of love. But it would be better to speak of some grand, never-ending 70s Ouroboros Rolodex overfilled with an overflow of addresses. And so let the glitter balls drop. All the rhinestone jumpsuits and bell-bottoms out of storage, because you should slide electrically through this boogie wonderland, you dancing queens and kings. For it is an undeniable truth that you can't write of discovery without disco. And because of you, for you, I am crazy like a fool. I play Daddy Cool over and again and break out my white man's overbite. And you dance, your mother dances. So your in utero brother dances. And we all dance together precisely because we know someone is watching. We scream and laugh because what is noise to the old order is harmony to the new. The instrument predates the music it allows, breaking through the old talk of death, sin, and taxes to renew the syntax. The autobiography of the chained book is one story Middle Ages scribes never dreamed they were writing. What's closest at hand is hardest to cliche, cliche, cliche. That's what's nearest by. The tale my tired mind copies out over and over. So in the middle of our sleepless nights, I turn to my books, imagining nothing could ever be as free. Even the ribbon marking the page seems almost overwhelmed with choice. Each sits on its shelf, an iteration of possibility, barely slowed enough for our hand to reach out and touch it, a shimmering time, leaving behind a time-lapse ghost of itself that reminds us that the business of the self is duplication, a ceaseless dispersion into the words of another, slipping from the fingers of our lives and falling into the book that sits there like an unlocked jewelry box, a site of secret wealth. Which is where you, my wee incunabula, record your uncanny coos, hues, and cries, twin columns of movable type that I cradle in a hearth light that flickers flames on the page that glows like an underground fire burning beneath my forest without ever consuming it. A scarred and unscathed collection of leaf falling on leaf. This least vicious of cycles has bound my life together. So I shape my book one quire, one young squire at a time, the signature growing encyclopedic from D to H, unfolding what seems to shift by some unknowable means from folio to quarto, octavo, exponentially untitled. My two covers, these bookends of endless means, while I, the grandest plagiarist, copy the work of these better young men to scribble my matter. And watching you, I can imagine a medieval scriptorium illuminating copies of an obscure manuscript proposing a general theorem linking the structure of the human rib cage, how it expands from the backbone, then folds into itself to snugly contain the vital organs, to the codex itself made of skin and spine, in order to prove writing's divinity. An argument driving the monks mad as they write it, a madness adding further proof to the terrifying power of written words, until the entire monastery was burnt to the ground to keep the blasphemy from spreading. Our holiest books all buckled and chained, curling their secrets back into themselves before the ashes swirl, carrying their words into the wind while they bury themselves in our overwhelmed and choking lungs. But a word will not burn. And so here you are, glowing white hot in front of me, visitations charging me with spreading their arcane truths. So when I am old and gray, I pray to remember such books as these and read again in my cataractic mind the look in your wordless eyes as you crawled so boldly up our Berbered stairs, and I, near-sighted as a star-nosed mole, dazzled out of my endarkened hole and spinning high on the terrifying space of a world opened all around me at once, flooded with light, like a 1976 disco ball, all, and ragdoll spent. I would recreate these words as a faith by which to live and set about converting the world to your teachings. But as the enraptured Templars used to say, if you can remember the Crusades, you weren't really there at all. So my prayers are that I don't betray you, my tiny faiths, since I know that the most devout too often lose the spirit or, overwhelmed by sheer fear of the divine, they lock away their rosaries and turn their minds to forgetting the scriptures. Oh, wait now. When? I'm old and gray. Well, that 1980s Maurice Richard Grecian formula option skated away so gradually that no one noticed long ago whether my wife likes it or not. Then I stand up from the breakfast table and collect the cereal bowls as my knees, bands start playing with my hip crunching along its chorus, and you both sing out, snap, crackle, pop, you're old, and there's no penalty for looking this happy. The hand is a careless adherent, clueless and arrogant, mindless in its grasps, its hasping rasps at the receding world, and like it, I sift meaning from the moment in the way I've been taught to think of the things in the earth. Tombs, silver hoards, and the fossilized bones of animals long dead before humans were born, as put there for us. And so I stand here exhausted and inexhaustible as that and conjunctively arrogant enough to try to order the world and its things, separating them as though drawing a wire string between every element of creation, keen enough to cut color into pieces, parting Kelly green from hunter, fern, jade, or forest, striating seas into twilight, midnight, abyssal, as though I could control benthic terrors as simply as if tracing roads and maps onto waters could write stop signs that put an end to the surfacing desires of the monsters we dream in the deepest deeps, as though we could think a puzzle strong enough to baffle the creatures we imagine into the darkest zones of the mind. All this and so much unspeakable more is what I think of as I sit here remembering taking your hand, fingers around at first, then inside and through, and though medical science assures no transmission or transfusion could possibly occur to carry part of you into me, physics and common sense aren't so sure, since I can feel the blood in your fingers in mine as you leaned out from the bank and we began to span the river, reaching out over the water, my countering body weighing us to the shore as the we of us was held, suspended somewhere in the middle, in the clasp and clutch of my grasp, which was not as still as the water beneath us, not as fluid as the water beyond us, or as supple as the water between our legs, not as carelessly emplaced as the cupola of the empty space between the legs of the heron you found in the tall grass at the river's bend. The impetus for all this making and marking of the blind spot, the essential hiding place where I look back so intently I finally forget the looker and even the looking. There is only fingertips, their nails and their quicks, knuckles of bones bend, palm and palm, locked between them the space in which we are and which we are. If the stairs that go up are the same as those we use to descend, it's by such steps we take our leave, confused and reaching for others to guide us. Fuzzy Bear guides you. Now, though I fear you, like me, will be led to say things like physicality is prior to language, but language pulls into focus distinctions where before were only flows of experience, proving the joke between words and chaos is a complicated non-equivalence. This world is filled with talk, yet our beloveds remain neither strictly empirical nor, as hard as we listen, succinctly linguistic. It seems unlikely the discourse of conscience will ever be spoken. However, later I might obfuscate my befuddlement into something beyond this bewilderness where all I do is beg the question to finally appear. But you're off to bed now, and I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you again. The octopuses say they must pull on their pajamas, just like everyone else, 4 legs at a time. Or as you eloquently quipped over fistfuls of flying spaghetti last night, what the elephants want is elephant sunscreen. Waka, waka, waka. And as I read Neruda writing of the birds and their order of the wilds, your eyes slip before mine like glasses correcting my sight, away from the book, up to the red-necked grebes that floated in the breakwater the day before your 3rd birthday. How first I called them ducks, and you called them ducks. Then I called them loons, and you called them loons. And then finally I called them grebes, and you demanded they are, were, will always be loons. Mm-hmm. And over your shoulder, the tern fell to the water and tore into its target, a feathered lance, while we crouched behind the benches and hid from each other, from your brother, mother. Then we climbed onto the rocks, and there the mute swan, suddenly at our feet, just feet below, its head plunging and probing the water, alien and absolutely confusing to you as it fed and preened, and we watched the Canada geese come near and fade away as the swan stayed just away, and the swallows circled and looped overhead, your hand in mine, my hand around yours, our hands linked under the swallows, linked over the swan, linked near the geese, linked so near to the tern, beyond the grebes that were ducks, and always, yes, always by loons. Your mother comes with your brother, their arms linked. Kelly and I link hands, and we walk forward linked, and we walk and knit together as pieces into one and separate out into each other as whole parts of a larger structure. Not important in ourselves, but important to ourselves. To each other, we cleave apart and we cleave together. We are strands in the tapestry, and we are architecture, architects, and we are foundation, abutment, pile, and arch. And we span the entire length and breadth and story of everything I can understand as love. Thanks very much.